I married him as a stand-in for 25 weddings, each ruined by his adopted sister. He didn't care when I miscarried 3 times, even tying me to a drop tower for that woman. While I screamed in agony, he was in bed together with her, and even forced me to donate my heart to her. I faked my death, became a rich woman, and married my true love. Now, with broken legs and a severed tongue, he crawls and begs for my forgiveness. Too late! It was well known among the city's elite circles that the woman Robert loved but couldn't have was Sarah, the adopted sister he watched grow up. And I, his fiancé, was just the perfect stand-in, the one who resembled her the most. 24 weddings, each stopped because she cried until her eyes were red. For the 25th, Robert guaranteed there would be no mistakes, but suddenly my mobile phone received countless calls. Sarah's somewhat voice came through. "Robert, Eleanor drugged me, but I only want to give my precious first night to you. This call is being sent to every man in the city. My door is open, Robert. I hope you're the first one here, otherwise." Before she finished, Robert shoved me to the ground like a madman and ran out, his eyes red-rimmed. Everyone gasped as the bright red blood slowly spread beneath me. "She's miscarried 3 times now, hasn't she? Guess the next wedding will have to be postponed for a month or 2. I smiled through my tears. I knew there wouldn't be a next time for us. "She's covered in blood. Shouldn't we send her to the hospital? Drugging his sister, Sarah? A woman like that deserves to die." Guests around me argued, and I huddled into a tight ball, clutching my aching stomach. Robert said Miss Sue has bad intentions, so she should be sent to the drop tower for some serious reflection. My face paled. I looked up, clutching my stomach, unable to believe it. Robert knew perfectly well that my parents had died tragically playing on a drop tower out of curiosity, and it was the place I feared the most. These past few days, he'd confiscated my mobile phone and restricted my movements, just because he was afraid I'd upset Sarah. How could I possibly have drugged her? My eyes were filled with tears from the pain. I reached for my mobile phone to call Robert and beg him to let me go, but the moment the call connected, I heard sounds that made my ears burn. They were together so quickly. "Robert, I love you. Can you go a little faster? Ah. Don't cry, Sarah. In my eyes, she's just a stand-in. The only one I love is you." The stares, a mix of morbid curiosity and mockery, stung me. Before I could react, his assistant snatched my mobile phone. He even impatiently yanked my hair. "Robert said if you don't listen, I have the right to punish you." I was dragged into the back of a car in front of everyone, the bumpy ride causing the bleeding to worsen. Finally, I was forcefully tied to the drop tower. The attitude of those around him had already confirmed it. He didn't care about me at all. This amusement park was designed and built by Robert specifically for Sarah, to bring her endless joy. But for me, it had become an execution ground. When the machine started, my agonizing screams tore through the sky. They were in the mansion next to the amusement park. I knew Robert could hear me. Robert said let Miss Sue play to her heart's content today, at least 10 times. Every time I ascended, I was terrified. The feeling of weightlessness during the descent was like being smashed into a pulp with my parents, over and over again. Blood stained the path I had just taken, and it soaked my seat. In this place, I lost my 3rd family member. "Dad! Mom! Your unfilial daughter is coming to join you." My voice was already hoarse. In the end, I could only close my eyes and grip the handle repeatedly, my heart unable to bear the strain. After I don't know how many times, I finally passed out. Just before I completely plunged into darkness, I thought I saw Robert, the man who had promised to protect me forever after my parents died. Turns out the deepest pain wasn't the fall from the drop tower, but the process of falling from hope into despair. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, my whole body aching unbearably. The doctor regretfully told me, "Your body is too damaged. You won't be able to have children in the future." The moment he finished speaking, Robert walked in. He made no attempt to hide the hickeys on his neck, yet his expression showed no sign of anything unusual. "Children? What children?" I stopped the doctor from explaining and said coldly, "Nothing." His expression softened slightly. You know, I only have one sister. I can't let her be ruined by other men. I won't hold what you did, drugging her, against you. You just rest well and take care of the child. The wedding is postponed to next month. He completely ignored the fact that he had tied me to the drop tower, dismissing my suffering. But before, when Sarah had just cried with red eyes, he would immediately stop the wedding, just because he was afraid the young woman's eyes hurt. I should have seen clearly whether he loved me or not long ago. There was no child anymore. They had all turned into blood. I forced a smile that was incredibly grim. No need. I'm not getting married. He looked displeased. Don't be childish. I've spoiled you enough as it is. If you don't marry me, who will you marry? He pinched my chin, smiling lazily. I'm your man, and the one in your belly is my son. Be good, stop throwing a tantrum. I turned my head away when he tried to kiss me. He always gave me a slap and then a date, doing everything to hurt me, yet so easily stirring my heart. Robert, you could hear me today, couldn't you? He froze for a moment, which was enough to confirm my guess. Eleanor, don't make me angry again. Also, you look better when you smile. Don't make that face again. He left out H. Alpha sentence. The way I looked now was too unlike the Sarah he deeply loved. He loved the way I smiled, the dimples exactly like Sarah's. My body hadn't recovered. Despite the doctor's objections, he ordered people to take me home. Sarah isn't feeling well, and I'm afraid she'll bother you again, so I'll have people stay at home to look after you. He was so good with words. Afraid of me being bothered? Clearly, he was afraid I'd harm Sarah and had people confine me. The people to look after me were a group of bodyguards surrounding the mansion, leaving me, a patient, alone inside. All day, with my mobile phone taken away, I was starving. Finally, I had to force myself out of bed to make food. Robert had always thought I was just an ordinary female chef, disdaining me for not being enough like Sarah and not worthy of him. It had been many years since I'd been in a kitchen. I simply made a bowl of soup, turned on the television, and the scene on the screen stung me. Robert had taken Sarah to an auction, displaying lavish public display of wealth for everything she liked, shocking the entire city. Afterward, he even invited a renowned culinary group, famous worldwide, to prepare a feast of delicacies worth millions for Sarah. The two of them were publicly affectionate in front of the cameras, completely disregarding any boundaries between siblings. Robert even publicly announced, "Sarah is my most beloved sister. The heir to my family can only be her child." I bit my lip, eating the bowl of soup that had long gone cold and lumpy. All I could think of was the renowned culinary group. They had treated me so well, yet I had cut off contact with them for a man like Robert. I secretly made a decision. Late at night, Robert returned, smelling strongly of alcohol. With just one glance, I saw the dense hickeys on his neck and his lips, red and swollen. Sure enough, once he'd had a taste, he couldn't stop. Robert smiled and leaned in to kiss me. I dodged. D again. He looked a little impatient but still threw something at me. Didn't you always want me to give you a wedding ring? I specifically bought one today. Are you touched? I let him put it on my finger, but my heart was aching as if being cut by a knife. It was an auction freebie/gift from today. Robert wasn't exactly stingy with me, he'd bought me a lot of jewelry, but because Sarah didn't want him to, he had delayed buying me a wedding ring. Didn't you eat much today? I asked the renowned culinary group to make you some delicacies personally. He opened the lid, and a pungent spicy smell wafted out, making me cough a few times. It was all the food Sarah had eaten today. She loved spicy food. Maybe it wasn't leftovers, but it certainly wasn't specially made for me. Robert, if Sarah had just returned from the hospital, would you let her eat something this spicy? I told you, Sarah and I are siblings. Can you stop overthinking things? He turned and went back to the bedroom in a huff, thankfully leaving my mobile phone behind. After debating for a long time, I finally sent a message to a contact I hadn't reached out to in ages. David, I miss you all. I want to come home. He replied almost instantly, his status alternating between typing and David. Finally, a message came through. Where are you? I'll come get you now. I didn't want my family to see me in such a state, so I told him to wait for me at Coastalwood Airport in a week. As soon as I put my mobile phone down, Robert came out, his face full of rage. My mobile phone was violently smashed on the ground. Without a word of explanation, he slapped me hard and dragged me into the car. Why are you so malicious? If Sarah had been in trouble today, I wouldn't let you off the hook. He sped like a madman, running who knows how many red lights. Just as we were about to arrive, a large truck suddenly crashed into us. A wave of dizziness, and the moment I closed my eyes, I felt like I was really going to die. Pain screamed through me. I struggled to open my eyes. The familiar smell of disinfectant again. My legs were shaking with pain. I looked up and saw bare bone visible. Suddenly, someone next to me shouted excitedly, "She's awake." Someone pulled my hand and made me sign papers. Instinctively, I felt something was wrong, but I was slapped hard. Robert said you are to donate your heart to Miss Sarah. I had just gone through a miscarriage and a car accident, and my legs were in urgent need of treatment, yet he wanted me to donate my heart. I didn't love him anymore, and I had said I wouldn't hold the wedding again. By what right did Robert decide my life and health? My voice was hoarse and terrifying. Sounds of pleading and calling echoed from the hospital room. Finally, Robert walked in. He saw my tears streaming down and pursed his lips. You provoked her with the wedding ring, which caused Sarah to have a heart attack. I told you that you would pay the price for it. Don't worry, I'll prepare a good artificial heart for you. After this surgery, I promise I'll love you well. You need to be sensible, stop making trouble. He ignored the blood covering me and coldly urged the doctor next to him to give me an anesthetic. I lay on the bed, in tearing pain. He didn't even bother to check if I had really provoked her, convicting me based on a simple screenshot from the other party. Loving him was the biggest mistake I ever made. When I woke up again, my legs had been bones pinned and cast. My heart was racing erratically, and even breathing felt unusually difficult. There was no one around me. I could only crawl up and use the wall for support to get to the restroom. I weakly called out, "Is anyone there?" But there was no response. When I reached the next hospital room, I saw a room full of people. Sarah was lying on the bed, and Robert was constantly bringing her tea and water, fussing over her. 3 or 4 doctors and nurses surrounded her, monitoring her condition. I stumbled and suddenly fell to the ground, crying out in pain. The people inside heard the noise and came out. Robert's voice came through. "Who is disturbing Sarah's rest? Break their legs and throw them out." A doctor glanced at me. "It's the other patient who had surgery." Robert fell silent. After a while, he walked out himself. As he was about to reach me, I violently pushed him away. "Eleanor, I know you're the most sensible. Donating your heart to Sarah is a blessing many would pray for. I'll compensate you later." He pointed to 2 nurses. "Send Miss Sue to the room furthest down." He said it was for my quiet rest, but it was clearly because he feared I would provoke Sarah again and wanted to imprison me. Out of sight, out of mind. His heart and mind were completely focused on Sarah now. I smiled as I looked at him. Tears had started to fall without me realizing it. He seemed to have never seen me smile so despairingly and heartlessly. His expression stiffened. Sarah's call came from inside, and he immediately turned and went back. "Eleanor, you know Sarah needs someone. You're her, be more understanding." I just felt sick. I was moved to the most remote hospital room, with no doctors or nurses to attend to me, and no one to take care of me. I was starving but didn't dare drink much water because there was no one to help me to the restroom. I had fainted from falling the night before and wasn't discovered until the next morning. In the end, I had to grit my teeth and crawl up myself. Without a mobile phone, I couldn't contact anyone else. I could only stare blankly outside. I had been completely forgotten by Robert. I spent 2 whole years in Coastalwood, a city full of lights, but it had nothing to do with me. My tears seemed to have dried up. I don't know when, but the door suddenly opened. I turned around and saw Sarah, her face full of mocking triumph, standing at my door. "I igno." Read her. I no longer cared about her provocations. Displeased by my indifference, she walked forward and tightly pinched my chin. Let me tell you, Robert has wanted your heart for a long time. Her smile was arrogant and smug. How could the world-famous race car driver have been in a car accident? If you had let him know you lost the child earlier, maybe you wouldn't have had to suffer the car accident. Even though I was already disappointed in him, I never imagined the truth was so cruel. My body trembled. Seeing my reaction, she was even happier. It's because Robert is too kind. He couldn't bear to abort the child directly, fearing it would affect your relationship. After the surgery, she had been well taken care of. Her voice was full of energy, completely different from my emaciated state. Also, are you feeling uncomfortable with your heart? Let me tell you, Robert actually gave you the cheapest garbage. What a shame, you probably won't live for many years. The cheapest artificial heart? My breathing suddenly became erratic, and my body trembled uncontrollably. Why would he, with all his wealth, treat me so badly? Did he want me to die that much? She said something inexplicable about time being almost up and left me with one last sentence. You screamed so terribly that day. Robert and I had a great time doing it while listening to you cry. He penetrated me over and over again amidst your screams. I promise, he wasn't distracted at all and had no intention of saving you. I suddenly couldn't stop laughing, my collapsing emotions pouring out like a burst dam. She slapped herself, making her face red, and lay down on the floor. The door opened again. Robert arrived. Robert, like a fixed NPC, picked her up and then accused me of being vicious. And I thought Sarah wanted to come see you. How could you compare to even a single strand of her hair? I laughed hysterically, but my voice slowly choked. I'm Eleanor. Why should I compare mice? LF to her. Why do you treat me like a stand-in? My sudden emotional outburst made him frown. His calm eyes made me look like a lunatic. If you don't apologize to Sarah, I won't forgive you. I clenched the mobile phone I had just stolen from Sarah. I don't need your forgiveness anymore. I picked up the mobile phone and immediately dialed. David answered instantly. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Finally, suppressing my sobs, I said, David, can you come save me? I had him arrange a death certificate for me and cancel all my information related to Eleanor. On the day he celebrated Sarah's discharge from the hospital and her new lease on life, my body, covered by a shroud, was also taken out. Move aside, this body needs to be sent to the crematorium. Next to me were Sarah's parents and friends, their voices full of laughter as they greeted her. Robert was assuring her parents that he would take good care of Sarah. As the cart carrying my body passed him, Robert suddenly shouted, as if he had seen something. Stop! My heart tightened. Robert slowly approached. My breathing tightened. He didn't love me, but if he knew I was lying there, he would absolutely not let me go. My heart was a chaotic mess, beating like a drum. Don't you know my sister is being discharged today? Bringing a dead person here is bad luck. Get out of here quickly. Hearing that, I breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed he had no intention of lifting the shroud to investigate. Just as the cart was about to be pushed into the vehicle, he called out stop again. How come I haven't heard about anyone seriously ill dying in the past couple of days? He walked forward, his hand already on the shroud. My hands were trembling uncontrollably, sweat soaking my entire body. Just as he was about to lift it, a sweet voice called out from behind him. Robert, let's go. He hummed in response and turned back. I felt like I had narrowly escaped death. The moment I was pushed into T. He vehicle, I scrambled up and gasped for air. It was as if fate was warning me that even like this, we would miss each other. I changed my appearance in the vehicle and soon arrived at the airport. I spotted David immediately. He didn't seem to have changed much in 2 years. His demeanor was calmer. The moment he saw me, his eyes seemed to turn red. He strode towards me. How did you get so hurt? He hesitated several times, then finally hugged me tightly, his voice a little choked. I'll take you home, sis. Robert, let's start the banquet. I can't wait. Sarah wore a haute couture red dress, the only one of its kind in the world, shining brightly in front of everyone. Robert glanced at her and paused. That one is for Eleanor. Yours is the other white one, Sarah. Sarah grabbed his hand and shook it constantly, pouting and acting coy. But I like this one. Robert suddenly found his usually sensible and sweet Sarah a bit annoying. This red dress was too flashy and required a good figure. He had clearly chosen the cool, white dress that best suited Sarah. He reluctantly agreed, thinking he'd buy something else to compensate Eleanor. Then, he suddenly remembered that Eleanor, the family's future daughter-in-law, hadn't arrived yet. He felt that the punishment these past few days should have been enough. He told his subordinates to change Eleanor into a new dress and bring her over. He had just taken his seat when Sarah sat next to him, rubbing her leg against his. He frowned. How had the usually reserved and adorable Sarah become like this? Today is an important occasion. You will sit next to me. You sit with Mom and Dad. Sarah's eyes widened suddenly, her face full of disbelief. Robert, you want that lowlife to attend my birthday banquet. How is she qualified to attend? Sarah's voice was sharp and angry. The surrounding guests all looked over. Robert was also stunned for a long time. What lowlife? That's your heart was donut. Ed by her. Robert had never expected his usually kind sister to say something so ill-mannered and vicious. What donated by her? If Robert hadn't doted on me and forced her, how could she have given it to me? Sarah's jealousy consumed her. Robert's excessive pampering recently had also made her bold. The word forced exploded in Robert's mind. His mind was suddenly filled with images of Eleanor crying uncontrollably and pleading with him. He had planned to maintain a distance from his sister and properly compensate Eleanor, to live a stable life with her. But he never expected her to treat her benefactor as an enemy. Sarah continued to make a fuss. How can a cook from a restaurant be worthy of you? She smells like poverty. Slap. Robert slapped her face. Neither of them had expected it. Sarah covered her face and cried loudly. You hit me because of that lowlife. Robert didn't know why he had hit his most beloved sister because of Eleanor, that stand-in. Just as he was about to step forward to comfort her, someone suddenly whispered something in his ear. Robert stood frozen in place, then suddenly swept everything off the table. How could Eleanor be missing? He immediately contacted people to search everywhere, and he himself, leaving the crying Sarah behind, rushed towards the door. Sarah quickly grabbed him. Robert, you're leaving me for that woman. This is my birthday banquet. What if she's gone, or even dead? Hearing her vicious curses, Robert no longer had any of his usual tenderness for her. But he still tried to control his anger. Be good. I'll be back in a little while. He had the security guard pull Robert away, and he himself drove furiously to the hospital, arriving at Eleanor's hospital room. It was stark and bare. On the table were a few stale bread, and the sheets were covered in bloodstains. All of it spoke of how pathetic the person who had stayed here was. He suppressed the strange emotions in his heart and asked the person next to him what had happened. There's no record of Miss Sue being discharged, and the surveillance cameras don't show where she went. But I found a mobile phone on the bed. Robert took it in his hand and immediately recognized it as Sarah's. He went through the chat records and various other things, finally stopping at a recording. This was the recording from the night Sarah came to see Eleanor and was slapped. It was a full half-hour long. Robert played the recording directly. Every sentence he heard pierced his heart a little more. All the truths he had tried so hard to hide were revealed to Eleanor. The car accident was his doing, the heart transplant was his doing, and being in bed together with someone else while listening to Eleanor's cries that day was his doing. But he just didn't want these things to affect their relationship. He had hidden them so well. He had clearly been ready to distance himself from his sister, properly compensate Eleanor, and live a stable life with her. He listened angrily, and when he heard about the cheap artificial heart, his pupils suddenly constricted. The hand holding the mobile phone trembled uncontrollably. How could this be? He had clearly spent a fortune on the best artificial heart. Robert ignored everything else and rushed directly into the doctor's office from that day's surgery. The doctor had just stood up when Robert punched him to the ground. "Tell me, you bastard. Was the heart used for Eleanor the one I told you to use or not?" The doctor crawled backward in fear, his mouth trembling for a while, then he said guiltily, "Of course it was." But Robert, who had been in power for so many years, how could he not see that the other party was lying? He laughed loudly, his eyes twisted and terrifying. "Good, good." He kicked the doctor hard several times. Soon after, his subordinates found out the truth. Miss Sarah had told the doctor in advance to use the cheapest artificial heart for Miss Sue. Miss Gu directly gave the original heart to the doctor. Robert let out a chilling laugh. He gripped the doctor's neck tightly like a madman. "That was my future wife. You are truly audacious. You can look forward to spending the rest of your life in prison." The doctor had wet himself. His face was covered in snot and tears. He had scraped his head and begged Robert for forgiveness. "Robert, please let me go. I'll give you back the money. I did my best." Miss Gu threatened my daughter's life. She originally wanted me to kill Miss Sue on the operating table. I really had no choice. "Please, I beg you." Killed on the operating table. Robert showed his bare white teeth and brutally kicked away the man who was grabbing his pants. He got in his car and sped directly to the hotel where the birthday banquet was being held. During the drive, anger and sorrow intertwined within him. He couldn't bear to think how painful it would be for Eleanor to know all this. She loved him so much. What if she did something foolish? Why had he been so obsessively protective of Sarah? This woman was nothing like the gentle and kind person he had imagined. She was completely a wolf in sheep's clothing. Eleanor wouldn't even hurt small animals, yet Sarah dared to directly take a human life. He now felt that Eleanor's disappearance must also be related to Sarah. Robert angrily slammed the steering wheel several times. His hand was aching unbearable. But Eleanor's legs had been bare bone visible. How much pain must she have been in? Upon arrival, he kicked open the door. All the guests' attention was drawn to him. Sarah's face lit up the moment she saw Robert return. She ran forward and tried to take his hand. "Robert, I knew you loved me the most. You would definitely come back." But the moment her hand touched him, Robert violently it. She fell directly to the ground, hitting her head on the corner of a table. Blood flowed immediately. Her forehead had a bloody hole, and her foot was sprained and swollen. Her beautiful face contorted in tears. "Robert, what's wrong?" "Sarah hurts so much, it hurts so much." Amidst the shocked stares of everyone, Robert tightly pinched her chin, his smile terrifying. "Hurts? You've done so many bad things, I thought you weren't afraid of death." Sarah was confused by Robert's words, but when she saw the doctor being dragged in by the security guards, her face turned pale. She seemed to forget the pain and crawled backward repeatedly. "No, I didn't do anything. Eleanor must have slandered me. I knew she was a lowlife." The surrounding guests realized that this scene was bad news and began to bid farewell to Sarah's parents. The two of them wanted to step forward and stop Robert, but they saw their son suddenly cover his eyes and cry on the ground. Only then did they learn the whole story from the bodyguards. Sarah's mother fainted immediately, and Sarah's father also slapped Sarah, disappointed in her. "Indeed, a child who isn't ours can never be raised well. A base bloodline can never be properly educated." They took the emotionally unstable Robert to the hospital, while the raving Sarah was thrown into a detention room full of poisonous insects and snakes. Robert thoroughly investigated the people and events around him and discovered that his most trusted assistant had been involved with his sister for a long time. The assistant had defied his orders and made Eleanor ride the drop tower more than 10 times. He had wanted to go out and see her then, but Sarah had stopped him. "Robert, that must be us recording. She always plays these little tricks." It turned out that during the few days Eleanor was in the hospital, no one had even brought her a single meal. He had clearly arranged it, but it had all been secretly blocked. Robert spent a full day before going to the detention room. Horrible screams and roars still echoed from inside. He opened the door and was met with the smell of excrement and blood mixed together. Sarah lay there weakly, begging for mercy repeatedly. Robert dragged her directly out and said words that made her even more despairing and collapsed. Didn't you say Eleanor drugged you? Do you know that because of that, I personally killed my own child? You love drugging people so much. Then I'll let you have your fill. Suddenly, Sarah was forcefully given several bowls of some concoction. Her body became hot and itchy, and she rolled on the ground in pain. This is your retribution. Enjoy it. Robert learned that all of Eleanor's identity information had been destroyed, but he was certain that she hadn't died. As long as he was alive, he would find her to atone for his sins. Eleanor's physical condition is too poor. She needs to be slowly nursed back to health. The doctor finished the examination and instructed David. David used all his assets and connections to treat me. Although it would be difficult for me to get pregnant again in the future, my legs had been treated, and a very suitable match for a heart had been found. It wasn't until I returned this time that I realized how foolish my actions had been, leaving these relatives for Robert. They cared for me meticulously, found different ways to make me food, and never mentioned the ridiculous and pathetic 2 years I spent. After staying in the hospital for a month, I was finally able to go home. When I got home, David hired several female nannies for me. As he was about to leave, I grabbed his arm and saw, as expected, that his eyes were red. David had always been reserved, but even so, I felt his passionate love. David, do you despise me? Hearing that, he suddenly became anxious. His thin lips parted several times, and finally, he said with heartache, "You were bullied." I feel heartache. How could I despise you? You're so good. Who would dare despise you? I'll go get revenge for you, sis. Stubborn. Still calling me his sister, even thou. There was no blood relation at all. You treat me like a sister, but you clearly react to me. My blunt words made his ears suddenly turn red. He stammered, and finally said, "I'm sorry." Don't say you're sorry. I held his hand earnestly. David, let's be together. I wasn't just a simple female chef. My master chef name is the renowned master chef name. When my parents passed away, I rushed back to handle the funeral arrangements and was touched by Robert, who had been helping me. At that time, overly depressed and lacking love, I walked into the sweet trap he set for me. And David was who had taken care of me in every way since I was young. Being too slow, I never realized that he actually liked me. Only after we opened up to each other did we realize how many years we had missed. My body gradually recovered over the next 6 months. Master Chef, name, who was like another father to me, arranged the marriage for us. The marriage of the Master Chef's 2 disciples was a beautiful story and caused a small sensation across the country. On the wedding day, many people I didn't know, but who were of high status and position, attended. Everything at the wedding was carefully selected by David, and everything was done to my liking. And Robert? He hadn't even accompanied me to try on a wedding dress once. I was so foolish, holding wedding after wedding with him, becoming a laughingstock every time. Scenes of David and I flashed on the screen. At this wedding, I felt an unprecedented sense of excitement and joy. Supported by Master Chef, name, I walked step by step towards David. Suddenly, a familiar and sharp voice exploded throughout the venue. Following the direction of the voice, I saw that incredibly familiar face. How is this possible? Eleanor, you're my wife. How can you marry someone else? Eleanor, are you being tricked by him? I'll take you home right now. Robert had lost his former glamour. He was unshaven, and his hair had turned much whiter. He was only in his 20s, but he looked like he had already entered middle age. The moment I saw him, the buried pain suddenly resurfaced. I clutched my chest, finding it difficult to breathe. David held me in his arms. He shouted loudly for the security guards to remove Robert. Several people immediately started wrestling with him. Eleanor, I know I was wrong. I've punished those who hurt you. Can you forgive me? Come back with me. I'll give you the grandest wedding. I love you. I really miss you. He was beaten and lay on the ground, looking at me with tears in his eyes. But his affectionate gaze only made me feel sick. David comforted me with heartache. After my emotions calmed down, I still walked up to him. Robert, I'm already married to David. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. You say you've punished those who hurt me, but you were the one who hurt me the most. With that, I turned and didn't look back. The security guards dragged him out directly, and his roars still echoed in the hall. You can't marry someone else. Eleanor, I really love you. I hadn't expected that even marrying someone else, I couldn't escape the fate of being mocked and watched at my wedding. My eyes were red. I wanted to apologize to David, but when I turned, I saw him smiling gently at me. I glanced down and saw that the guests showed no reaction. They were all watching us as if nothing had happened. The MC immediately ran out and continued to host the wedding. So, it was possible for a wedding to continue normally even after an incident. The attitude of these guests was exactly David's attitude towards me. It was a pity that after all these years, I only just realized how truly bad Robert had been to me. David and I exchanged the rings he had personally designed, and we kissed happily amidst everyone's blessings. It wasn't until late at night, after being busy all day, that I changed out of my clothes and lay in bed. I am exhausted, David. I hugged the pillow, feeling sleepy, but he leaned over me. Wife, the things that will truly tire you out haven't happened yet. My ears turned a little red when I heard that. It was only natural for a married couple to do these things. I lightly kissed his lips, and under his control, I was lost in desire and happiness. My mobile phone vibrated constantly. I tried to reach for it several times, but David grabbed my waist and pulled me back. Not paying attention? Don't you think your husband is satisfying you? My mobile phone vibrated nonstop with hundreds of missed calls, but it didn't shake as much as David and I on the bed. He touched you? Robert had found my mobile phone number from somewhere. Not only did he call me all night, but now he was sending such ridiculous harassing messages. If you want to hear, I'll live stream it for you next time. After saying that, I blocked him. Yesterday, caught off guard, I was still affected by him. Now, only disgust remained. He seemed to have gone mad, changing numbers and harassing me nonstop. I simply threw away that SIM card and got a new one. David treated me very well, almost meticulously. He never mentioned the topic of children. Although the doctor said it would be difficult for me to get pregnant again, he still took every precaution for birth control. David, don't you want a child, one that belongs to just the two of us? He paused while chopping vegetables. Eleanor, your body is not well and is not suitable for having children. If you want a baby, we can adopt one. I have you, and that's enough. I don't need a child to prove anything. Every word he spoke was filled with care and love for me. I finally let go and focused on living our own lives. I was already a disciple of Master Chef, name. After marrying David, I practiced diligently and became a renowned master myself. Many people invited David and me to preside over large banquets. I, who was once criticized as worthless and a terrible cook, became better and better after leaving him. Another summer came, and David and I embarked on the journey back to Coastalwood. After years away, I found that things had changed drastically. The once famous Goo Corporation had actually gone bankrupt. Who knew the Goo Corporation did so many bad things? They profited from public crises, used substandard materials, and engaged in tax evasion. They were probably targeted by someone and were forced out of business. David seemed completely uninterested in these matters, only playing with the doll on my bag. I immediately noticed something was off about him. The Goo family's matters, did you do it? He continued playing with the doll, showing an innocent smile. I was making a contribution to the country, Eleanor. Shouldn't you praise me? When he finished speaking, my nose suddenly felt a little sore. Even though I myself thought that since I had moved on, I shouldn't bother with him anymore, he had always remembered the suffering I had endured. He had taken care of Robert without seeking anything in return, without even letting me know. I hugged him tightly and said, I love you. Suddenly, there was a garbled shouting from behind. I turned around, and for a moment, I couldn't believe my eyes. Even after many years, even with the significant changes, I recognized Robert at a glance. His legs seemed to have been broken, and his tongue had been cut off. He could only use his elbows to crawl forward on the ground. His dirty and disheveled face was covered in tears. He mumbled and stammered, trying to say something. After a long time, I finally understood. It was his belated apology. After years of shifting fortunes, he finally tasted the suffering I had once endured. David and I left, watching the children in the park flying kites high, running freely and happily. Freedom, spontaneity, happiness. A wish for me, for us.